Welcome to the Week 6 Spreadsheet Beta and Security Market Line, Problem 5. In steps 1 to 4, we calculated two envelope portfolios, X and Y, and then combining those two envelope portfolios in different proportions, we found this data table here. Now what we want to do is find the equivalent portfolio so that one of our envelope portfolios has the same risk as our proxy market, the S&P 500. We want to do that because we believe that the S&P 500 is not on the envelope, and we want to check that. So what do we do? Well, what we do is we go into Data, What If Analysis, Goal Seek. And what we do is we set this cell, the standard deviation in pink here, cell E100, to a value 0.1896. Why 0.1896? Because if we go back to problem 3, we can see that the standard deviation of the S&P 500 is indeed 0.1896. If I hit F2 and move up to the data table, you can see that's highlighted S&P 500, and that's standard deviation. So by going back to the data table and then to Goal Seek, we set the standard deviation in the pink line, E100, to the value 0.1896. That is the value of the risk of the S&P 500, and we want to set it by changing the increment value in cell B98 in pink there. Why? Because what we want to do is we want to change the proportion or the increments between -2 going down into this data table in such a way that one of these proportions will be such that the standard deviation corresponds to 0.1896. So if we hit OK, we get a solution, and we can see now that if the proportion of X is -1.4532, the risk of the standard deviation is 0.1896, which we've seen is identical to the risk of the S&P 500. However, if we look at the mean for that envelope corresponding to the risk of 0.1896, we see that it is 0.2278, much higher than the mean of the S&P 500. And if we go down to problem 6, where we graph this, you can see that this is the S&P 500 with its 0.1896 risk on the x-axis and its 0.122 return on the y-axis. And this is the corresponding envelope portfolio up here, which has got the same risk, 0.1896, but a much higher return, 0.22. So we can see indeed that what we're using as a proxy for our market portfolio, the S&P 500, is not on the envelope, and therefore it does not produce, it is not an appropriate proxy, and it explains why when we go back to test our beta, we only get an R-squared of 0.2793. Our market proxy, our S&P 500, is not appropriate because it is not on the envelope. It is an inappropriate market portfolio. And what we do in the next problem, problem 7, is use this appropriate market portfolio. We use this envelope portfolio and recalculate our beta relationship. That's it for now.